Hello and welcome back. It is Monday. I am Mr. Sosotris, and this week I'm talking about book series that I want to either read or finish reading in 2025. So my book buying ban is going well. I know it's only 13 days into the month, so we'll see how that goes. But it's really been nice. There's no pressure to kind of constantly be keeping up with sort of all the new releases and obsessing, and I've been adding a lot of stuff to my wish list, and so in the future I can start getting books once I get to them. The theme of this book buying ban thing is not so much just stop buying books ever. It's get books when you're ready to read them, rather than getting books obsessively and then being like, I'll get to them eventually, and then you just end up with bookshelves that are overflowing. So these are the book series that I already own that I want to either continue reading and finish, or start reading and finish in 2025. So I'm going to start off with my digital books that I have on my Kobo. So the first one is the Oz series by L. Frank Baum. This one, I'm about 6 books in so far. There's 14 total, and they're short, so I'll be able to finish that pretty soon. I'm really enjoying the series so far. They're very strange. Once you get past kind of like the original book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz is very much a classic for a reason. And once you get past that one, Baum's imagination sort of goes nuts. And it's so funny because you'll get descriptions of this sort of perfect socialist utopia. That's what the Emerald City is. But then you'll also have moments of horrific body horror, and you're like, okay, that's a thing that happens. There's a lot of decapitations and people getting sliced into pieces and all that kind of stuff. So it's equal parts violent and cozy, and I guess that kind of works for my brain. So we'll see how the series goes. It's been a bit of a mixed bag so far, but I'm on book 6, The Emerald City of Oz, right now, and it's great. So hopefully it'll be smooth sailing to the end of that series. Next up is Illborn by Daniel T. Jackson. The first book was one of my favorite reads last year. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the series overall is going to end up being a 4-book series. The second book is out and I do have it, so I will read that. The third book is coming out this year. So this is going to be one of those ones where when it's time to read it, I will probably get that one because I really enjoy this series. And when it's time to read it, I will definitely grab it. And then the fourth book, I think, is coming out in a couple years. But that's fine because I don't want to rush through this series. It's one of the best fantasy series that I've read recently. Next up is one that I haven't started yet, but it's the Realm of Fae series by Ben Alderson. This is a sort of gay romantasy take of sort of the ACOTAR type books, but better. They were published previously, but I think they were indie before, and now they're being picked up by a bigger publisher. And so I had those pre-ordered a million years ago. So I do have those, and I'm looking forward to reading them. They're fun. I really like Ben Alderson's other work. He's a really great author, really great world building, and the relationships at the heart of his stories all feel genuine. There's a thing you see with romance sometimes where people get so hung up on the tropes and the setting that the idea is very cool, but the main leads don't actually have a ton of genuine chemistry. It kind of feels like very artificial chemistry. And Ben Alderson is one of those ones who his characters always seem to work together. So I'm excited to get into that one. Next up, taking the fantasy in a different direction, is the Last War trilogy by Mike Shackle. I do have all of his books, but I have not started them yet. But they're grimdark and bleak and violent, and I don't know, there's something about that particular style that just really appeals to me. It's like escapism, but the opposite way. Instead of escaping from the horrors into coziness and fun, you're escaping from the horrors into other horrors that have an ending. So it's it's fine. We'll get into that. But I've heard great things about Mike Shackle. A lot of booktubers have recommended him, and so I'm excited to get into that series. Next up are some fandom series, and one of them is the Vanguard series. This is one of the Star Trek series. It's set in the Kirk era, but it focuses on a space station, and there's all kinds of drama and hijinks that happen. And it's a finished series, so it's one you can start and finish. And I'm a big Trekkie, so I'm excited to get into that one. I picked them all up a while ago. There was a crazy sale where every book was $1, and I went nuts and was like, I need all of it. But I haven't actually gotten around to finishing the series. I started it a while ago, but it was long enough ago that I think I want to start the series again and like beginning to end, because, you know, it's fun, it's escapist, and we need more of escapism in these dire days. Next one, this is a series I'm probably not going to finish in 2025, but I'm going to continue because it's quite long, and that's the High Republic series, the Star Wars High Republic series. I've read the first 2 books so far. I've really enjoyed them. I think when I first started reading it initially, when it was initially released, I was reading just the adult books, and there's a lot of stuff that is important to the story that's introduced in kind of the YA books as well. And so I was feeling a little lost. It felt a little disjointed. It was sort of like you're getting big chunks of the story, but there's a lot of other stuff that's sort of missing. I've been reading like the adult and the YA, and I'll probably read the middle grade books too, just because they're fun. But it's been a really great reading journey, and I'm excited to continue it. And there's quite a few books, so I'm not going to be buying a ton more of those. I do have the first few, so I think I'll just stick to the ones that I already have for now, and then in the future, as I go, I'll add on to it instead of like buying a bunch of them en masse, because that's not super feasible. So now we're going to move into the physical series that I have. First up is the Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney Mysteries by Claudia Gray. The first book, The Murder of Mr. Wickham, was fantastic. This is sort of a what if all the couples in Jane Austen's books knew each other and they all come together for like a dinner party and someone gets murdered, and the son of the Darcys and the daughter of the Tilneys come together and they solve mysteries together. And so there's 2 more books. There is a 3rd book that's either out now or is coming out very soon. But these are cozy mysteries. They're fun. They're full of sort of in-jokes with all the kind of Jane Austen stuff. And I don't know, they just seem like a delightful series, and I definitely want to continue them because I love Claudia Gray's writing. Next up is the Orisha trilogy by Tomi Adeyemi, and this one is one that I'm excited to read, but the 3rd book has gotten some mixed reviews, unfortunately, but I haven't heard any of those mixed reviews since the book came out, so I don't know if that was sort of just initial reactions, people being disappointed, or what. But I do want to read these because I really loved the first book, and I did read the second book, but I can't really remember a lot of what happened in it because there was other stuff going on in the world at that time. And I just now discovered, looking at the back of this book, that the 3rd book has like sprayed edges. Who knew? That's so cool. I did not know that had sprayed edges. That's terrible. I got it and I was so excited I put it on the shelf and it was just sort of there and I haven't seen the sprayed edges. But anyways, but I do want to read all 3 books in a row just to kind of get the gist of it. This is a YA fantasy trilogy, and the characters I really like. They have good character arcs. There's sort of this like characters start off in one place and by the end they're in a very different place, and I love character arcs that do that. So I do want to read all 3 of these books kind of at once. Next up is Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. This is a very bizarre collection of books here. This was nope, I'm dropping things. It's terrible. This one is like the hardbound version. I think Barnes & Noble, when I was in the States, they had these, and it's really pretty. It has the gold edges. And this is kind of the first main 3. But then there's also the prequel, Prelude to Foundation, and then there's 3 other sequels that continue the story. So I've read these ones, but I haven't read like the whole series. So I do want to do kind of a complete reread because I love classic sci-fi, and Isaac Asimov is one of those classic sci-fi writers that, even though he is of his time, he's not as bad as some other writers of his time. Mostly Asimov was sort of scared of women, and so he didn't really use them very much at all. And if they are there, they're like secretaries in the background, which isn't great, but at least he wasn't like openly hostile to women. But I really like Asimov, and I do want to read kind of this whole series because there's a lot of great ideas in this, and I love the characters, and I don't know, the concepts are very compelling, and I love how it spans a very long time. I like books that kind of do that and see like what does humanity do and how does humanity change over long periods of time. So Foundation, I will get to those this year. Next up is another sci-fi series, and this is an ongoing series. I have the first 3 books, and the 4th book just came out, and so I'm excited to get into this, and that is the McMurdo Rift and its sequels by Bradley Lejeune. And this is one that I'm really excited. It's kind of space opera, and the concept sounds really cool. It's very character focused. You've got sort of a husband and his ex-wife and all the drama in there, and then this huge stuff happening. And so this one looks a lot of fun. I love indie sci-fi because it usually goes in really fun, interesting ways that sort of mainstream, traditional published sci-fi tends not to. But I'm excited to read the series, and the 4th one just came out. So if I, when I get to that one, that's another one that I definitely want to pick up because this one just looks fun. And I love the cover art. Isn't this great? I don't know. There's something about like color themed covers. The Greenbone Saga does this too, where each book is a different color. It just makes me happy, and I love it so much. But anyways, excited to get to these ones. Next up is the Inheritance Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. This book terrifies me because it's a massive brick, but this is 3 books in one. It's like an omnibus collection, and I've never disliked anything I've ever read by N.K. Jemisin. I love her other work, and I'm excited to get into this one. This one is fantasy, more like, I think the other ones she tends to do more fantasy sci-fi or speculative fiction in a more general sense, but this one is kind of firmly rooted in sort of the realm of fantasy, maybe even science fantasy. I don't know, but I love her prose, and I'm excited to get into this one. This is one that I may see if I can read the ebooks for, so I don't have to lug this massive thing around, because this will destroy my wrist. But it's okay. It's worth it. I picked this up at a used bookstore, and I'm really excited to get into this one. This one's more sci-fi, sci-fantasy, something. Who knows? And that is Dan Simmons' Olympus Duology. I love Dan Simmons. His Hyperion Cantos are one of my favorite sci-fi things ever, and I really liked The Terror. It's like sci-fi meets the Trojan War, so you've got Greek mythology in the future on Mars somehow, and the concept alone just explodes my brain. But these are both pretty chonky books, but I really, really want to read these because Dan Simmons is one of those readers who blows up your brain, but then he puts it back together at the end, and you kind of thank him for it. He is sort of a literary nerd, and so his books often blend sort of genre frameworks with like traditional literature or classical allusions and all kinds of stuff. And so this being Greek mythology and space, it's basically designed for me, so I do want to read these too. I'm really excited to get to them. Next up is the Ambergris series by Jeff Vandermeer. I loved Annihilation and the Area X trilogy. I haven't read the 4th book in that series that just came out, but this is it's another one of his sort of omnibus collections of three of the books in this series. And I don't know, this one seems strange. It's weird sci-fi, weird fiction, and it seems like something that I would really love. His world building is so strange and compelling and beautiful and horrifying, and I love all those things, so I'm excited to get into this series. I don't know anything about it, but I can't wait. Next up is an indie fantasy trilogy by actually a local author who's from my city, and that is the Callum Walker series by J.M. Shaw. I got to meet the author at a signing in a bookstore. It was sort of one of those things. She was signing books and talking to people, and I drifted over, and she explained it's urban fantasy, and it blends fairy tales with the modern world in cool ways, and it just seemed like something that was very much my jam, so I was very excited to pick these up, and I got her to sign it, and I love when authors sign books. It makes me happy. So yes, this is one that I am excited to get to. And it still has this local author sticker on it, which is good. Local authors are great, but I don't like stickers, so I'll probably remove the stickers carefully with like, you know, heat so I can pull it off without leaving any goo on the cover. But anyways, so excited to read these ones. Next up is one that I've talked about a lot in this channel, and that is the Between Earth and Sky series by Rebecca Roanhorse. Black Sun was incredible. The world building was so good. It's sort of grimdark fantasy that's set in like a world that's based on like pre-Columbian South America and Central America. It's so cool. The world building is fantastic. The characters are great. The twists and turns are insane. And I picked up the last one once it came out, but this is one of those series where it's good. And so of course I'm intimidated to read it because I don't know, I did this with the Greenbone saga and I was proved wrong because I was worried that the last book wouldn't hold up and it would kind of be disappointing. And of course that trilogy is outstanding and incredible. And I've heard nothing but good things about this, so I should just suck it up and read them because they're so pretty and I love the cover art so much. It's just, yeah, I love this author. So I will get to this year because I'm not buying any new books just for the sake of buying them. I'm reading the books that I already have. You're gonna hold me to that, right? And then finally, I have the Songs of Penelope trilogy by Claire North. This is an Odyssey retelling from Penelope's point of view, and each book is narrated by a different goddess, which is really cool. I think the first book is narrated by Hera. The second book, I think, is narrated by Aphrodite, and I'm not actually sure who narrates the third one. Maybe this one is just narrated by Penelope herself. I don't know. But this is a trilogy that I've been meaning to get to. The author appeared on the Breaking the Glass Slipper podcast years ago, and I loved her take on Greek mythology and the story and the characters. And it just struck me as like, I have to read the series. And I picked it up, but again, I keep being intimidated by it because it's a trilogy and it's a big commitment. And so I keep not reading it. And so this year, I'm going to read it. And that is what I have for now. I feel like these are books that can get me through the year. Last year I read about 100-ish books. This year I'm not stressing myself out. I'm going to be focusing on just reading what I want and taking more time with it. There's some standalone books that I want to read that are also quite long. I really want to try my hand at War and Peace this year because I love Tolstoy, and that's a big, huge one as well. So I feel like this is doable. This is definitely, you know, these are books that I can get through this year and I won't have any pressure because I love all of these and I'm really excited to read all of them. So I don't think I'll be tempted to just go out and just start purchasing new books just for the sake of it because I'm trying to hold back on that. We'll see how successful it is, but so far I'm doing pretty good. And, you know, I think it's important to do that for my brain. So with that said, I'm going to let you go. I will see you next week. And in the meantime, happy reading. Bye.